Right then, the Uyghur story gets going on the massive grassy plains of Central Asia amongst some really old Turkic peoples. Early Chinese writings tell us about their ancestors who were called the Tiel. And get this, they were brilliant at riding horses and using bows and arrows. Living out on those plains meant you really had to be a dab hand with horses and bows just to get by, to survive. The Uyghurs were part of these big groups of Turkic tribes. They'd trade things, sometimes have a bit of a fight, and they learned a lot from other groups too. When it came to their beliefs, they followed something called shamanism and worshipped a sky god named Tengri. Nature was super important to them, right at the heart of it all. They had special ceremonies and stories that helped them feel connected to the whole universe and, of course, to honor their ancestors. These folks were nomads, which means they were always moving about, looking for fresh grass for their animals, especially as big kingdoms or empires came and went. After a while, the Uyghurs became their own unique group, sort of setting things up for everything they'd do later on. Their big adventure was really only just starting. They were a people all set to make their mark on history. Then, in the 8th century, that's like the 700s, the Uyghurs set up their own kingdom called a Khaganate in a place we now know as Mongolia. This powerful kingdom became a really big deal in Central Asia. It was a golden age for them, a time when everyone was united and their culture was amazing. The Uyghur Khaganate actually teamed up with China's Tang dynasty. That was the ruling family in China then, and helped them stop some big rebellions. A religion from Persia called Manichaeism became the main religion of their kingdom. This had a big effect on Uyghur art and how they lived. They were really open to new ideas, which helped them build a culture that mixed lots of different things from around the world. But you know how it is with big kingdoms, they always face problems. They had troubles inside their own group, and threats from outside too. Things like not enough rain, which we call droughts, and other Turkic groups trying to take over, like the Yenisei Kyrgyz, made their kingdom weaker. So, in the middle of the 800s, their kingdom finally fell apart after a big attack. The main city of the Uyghurs was destroyed. The Uyghur people had to spread out and look for new places to live, but their story definitely wasn't finished yet. After their kingdom fell, the Uyghurs moved south. They went to a place called the Tarim Basin, which is in northwest China today. They had to get used to a new type of place with deserts, but also lovely green spots called oases. And they set up new kingdoms there, like Kocho and Kanchu. So they changed from being nomads, always on the move, to becoming farmers and people who lived in cities. They got really good at bringing water to their crops and farming. The famous Silk Road, that big trading route, brought them lots of money and new ideas. It made their oasis cities exciting places full of life and culture. The Uyghurs even came up with their own way of writing. This helped them keep their language and traditions alive. The religion of Buddhism became really popular, and they made amazing art, music and stories. Cities like Turpan became important centres for trade and culture, and they built these clever underground water channels called Kariz systems, which helped them grow food and live there. So the Uyghurs changed from being warriors on the plains to clever city folk, and their new home really bloomed. The story of what the Uyghurs believed in shows how they mixed with other cultures over hundreds of years. They started off with shamanism and Tengrism, those beliefs we talked about that were all about being close to nature. Then, when they had their big kingdom, Manichaeism became their main religion, and that really shaped their art and stories. When they moved to the Tarim Basin, Buddhism became super important. You can see this in the amazing temples they built in caves, with beautiful paintings on the walls. The Silk Road didn't just bring goods, it brought new beliefs too. Things like Nestorian Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and later on, Islam. Islam started to spread slowly from the 900s. Rulers like a chap called Satuk Bughra Khan helped it along. For hundreds of years, lots of different religions lived side by side. This made the Tarim Basin a real meeting place for different beliefs. By the 1500s, Islam had become a really central part of being Uyghur. It shaped their culture, their laws, and how they lived every day. Mosques, their places of worship, and religious festivals became super important, and lots of clever people studied and wrote about Islam. Now, before a big Chinese ruling family called the Qing dynasty came along, the Tarim Basin was a place lots of people wanted to control. For a while, it was ruled by groups like the Dzungar Khanate. Local Uyghur leaders looked after their own communities, but they often had to answer to rulers from other places. Then, in the middle of the 1700s, the Qing dynasty beat the Dzungars in a fight and took over the area. So, this region became part of the big Qing Empire. Uyghur nobles, sort of like local lords, were allowed to manage things in their areas, but the Qing rulers kept an eye on them. The Qing put soldiers there and encouraged trade. This brought in new ideas and made things a bit more settled and peaceful for a while. Farming and trade along the Silk Road carried on, and the area became a really important part of the Qing Empire. This whole period really set things up for even more changes that were still to come. Then, in 1884, the Qing dynasty made a new province and called it Xinjiang. This name means New Frontier. This was a big change because it meant the Qing government started to rule the area directly, making it more a part of the rest of China. A proper provincial government took over from the old way of doing things, and new laws were brought in to make the whole area run the same way. More people started moving into the area, including Han Chinese people and Hui Muslims. Things like roads and buildings got better, and people realized the area was really important because of its resources and where it was. For the Uyghur people, all these changes meant new ways of making a living and new ways society worked. Setting up Xinjiang province really paved the way for all the modern things that happened later. Now, the early 1900s were a bit chaotic because the Qing dynasty, that big ruling family, fell apart. Xinjiang was quite far away from everything, so local strongmen or warlords managed to grab power for themselves. With everything so unsettled, a group declared the first East Turkestan Republic in 1933. They wanted independence for the Uyghur people, but it didn't last very long. About 10 years after that, another one, the Second East Turkestan Republic, was set up in a place called the ILI region. This one had help from the Soviets next door, lasted a bit longer, and controlled some parts of northern Xinjiang. When the big civil war in China finished, the new government, the People's Republic of China, talked with the local leaders in Xinjiang. The area then peacefully became part of the new China. This meant those short-lived republics ended, but the idea of wanting to rule themselves, that hope for autonomy, kind of stuck around. The Uyghur language, which is a type of Turkic language, is super important to who they are. They write it using a script that's based on Arabic. They have loads of amazing stories, poems and songs that they pass down from parents to children, connecting everyone. Uyghur music and dancing are famous, especially these big, amazing musical pieces called mukam. They're known for being full of feeling and really skillfully done. They play traditional instruments like the duta and the rawap, which make these beautiful magical tunes, and their lively dances show how joyful and strong they are. Being welcoming to guests, celebrating festivals, and making lovely things with their hands, like colourful carpets and special knives, these are all really important parts of their culture. They also have their own special clothes, like the dopper cap you might see them wearing, which shows off their history. Old cities like Kashgar, Hotan and Turpan are like living museums. They really show off the amazing Uyghur way of life and their connection to the old Silk Road. So the Uyghur journey has been going on for thousands of years. They've gone from being nomads to building kingdoms, living in green oases and becoming city folk. They've taken on new beliefs, lived under different rulers and faced big challenges. But through it all, they've kept their amazing culture alive and kicking. Their language, music and traditions are still a big part of their everyday lives, linking the old and the young. Family and community are right at the heart of things for them. The older folk and skilled craftspeople make sure to pass on their traditions. And today, Uyghur people carry on making their homeland, and indeed the whole world, a richer place with all the unique things they do and create. Their story is all about sticking it out, changing when they need to, and the incredible power of culture. It's a really inspiring part of everyone's history, isn't it? As we reach the end of our journey through the rich history of the Uyghur people, we hope you found this video insightful. If you enjoyed learning with us, please like, share and subscribe for more fascinating stories from history. Thanks for watching.